to today's episode of The Man Who Knows Everything. That is me. I am he. I'm just going to adjust my camera a little bit. There we go. You can see me a bit better now. So the way this works is every day I come on here at 1 o'clock and I give you 10 facts about a subject that I set yesterday. Then at the end of each video, I'll give you a new topic and you've got 24 hours to look up as much information you can about that topic. So today's topic is all about the history of music production. So here's fact number 1. So the history of sound recording can be divided into 4 different eras. So first of all, there's the acoustic era, then they move on to the electric era, then they move on to the magnetic era, and finally the 4th one is the digital era. So the acoustic era is really from like the late 1800s, so to around about 1925. The electrical era is from about 1925 through to about 1945. Then the magnetic era is from 1945 to about 1975. And then the digital era is from 1975 to the present day. So that is fact number 1, that the history of sound recording is divided into 4 different eras. So fact number 2, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the acoustic era. So the earliest method of sound recording and reproduction involved the live recording of a performance directly to a recording medium by an entirely mechanical process. And what this means is there would be a diaphragm, a bit of rubber or something, and it would vibrate to the sounds of music that was being played live. And that vibration would pass along into a stylus like a needle, and that would drag it along some soot, basically. And I'll tell you about that in just a minute because that comes on to fact number 3. So the first one was acoustic recording, and it was all about the live performance vibrating a diaphragm, and that vibration would go along to a stylus. And basically, it wasn't so that they could replay that recording, it was so they could examine those vibrations, so it would create like a sound wave, and they would be able to study that. So it was like a graphical way of recording music rather than trying to replay it. Then fact number 3 is that in 1857, a person called Edward Leon Scott de Martinville, invented the phonograph, and that was the first device that we could record sound waves as they passed through the air. And it was only intended, as I mentioned before, for visual study. It was never intended to play it back, so you couldn't play back the recording. It was just a way of documenting what those sound waves did. So the recording medium was a sheet of soot-covered paper wrapped around a rotating cylinder that carried a threaded rod. So there was a stylus attached to a diaphragm through a series of levers. It traced a line through the soot as it vibrated, and it created a graphic record of the motions of the diaphragm as it was moved back and forth by those vibrations of the sound and the air pressure. So that was fact number 3, that Edward Leon Scott de Martinville invented the first way of documenting sound. Fact number 4 is that the phonograph was invented by Thomas Edison in 1877, and it was the first invention that could both record and play back sound, and that was in 1877. And the earliest type of phonograph was recorded on a thin sheet of like tin foil wrapped around a metal cylinder again. So a stylus was connected and the sound vibrated the diaphragm, and it indented the tin foil as a little groove as the cylinder turned around. And then the sound could be played back by putting that stylus back in the groove, and it would play along that groove, and it would go back into that diaphragm, and it would vibrate the sound back again, so they were able to hear back what they'd already recorded. It was only intended as like a bit of a novelty because the recording quality wasn't very good. So it's just a bit of a party piece, really. The fact that you could record it and then put that stylus back in that same groove and you would hear it very faintly. So through like an amplifying horn. Fact number 5 was the advance of electrical recording in 1925. So it made it possible to use sensitive microphones. So the sound quality greatly improved, and a much wider range of frequencies was able to be captured as well. So the leading record labels at the time switched to the electrical process in 1925, and then the rest soon followed. Well, there was one straggler in the United States that held out until 1929 before succumbing to the electrical recording process. Then, fact number 6, American engineer John T. Mullin invented the next advance into the recording process, and it involves a meeting with the singer Bing Crosby. So there were key players in the commercial development of magnetic tape. So John T. Mullin was involved in the US Army, I believe, and he invented all these different ways of recording things on magnetic strips of tape. And he gave 2 public demonstrations of his machines, and they caused a sensation among the American audio professionals because many listeners couldn't believe what they were listening to wasn't live. It was of such good quality, and by luck, his second demonstration was held at the MGM Studios in Hollywood, and in the audience that day was Bing Crosby's technical director, a man called Murdo Mackenzie, and he put him in touch, Mullin, in touch with Bing Crosby, and in June 1947 he gave Bing Crosby a private demonstration of his magnetic tape recorders, and Bing Crosby realised this was going to be amazing for his radio broadcast, because previously if you wanted music in the radio, you had to have all the musicians live in the studio with you, whereas this meant that we're able to record it and broadcast that recording instead. Fact number 7 is that the next major development in the magnetic tape was the multitrack recording, which is when the tape is divided into multiple tracks that are all parallel with each other, and so they're able to record different things on each of those magnetic tapes, and because they're in synchronization with each other, it sounds like it's just one tape when they're all played back. And the man called Les Paul, whose famous guitars you might have heard of, he was responsible for really exploring the idea of multitracking. The first development in multitracking was the idea of stereo sound, because you'd have one tape and another tape, and they would be in synchronization with each other. So, fact number 8 is that within a few years after the introduction of digital recording, multi-track recordings were being produced in professional studios, and in the early 90s, relatively low-priced multi-track digital recorders were introduced for home studios as well, and then obviously it spread out into the commercial markets and the consumer markets, and tapes and record players were largely kind of outdated, and it was basically compact disc players and sometimes mini disc players that kind of overtook them. But nowadays, we've got fully digital MP3 players, and you can play things on a computer that don't require any kind of disc or cassette or record. It's all inside the computer. Fact number 9 is about the earliest the earliest audio recording. And obviously, I've mentioned earlier on about how the first recording that could be played back was invented by Thomas Edison in 1877, but the earliest recording is actually from 1860. Now, the reason it's from 1860 is because the recording of this lady in France singing Au Clair de Lune was recorded in 1860, but it was only recorded as a way of, it wasn't meant to be played back. But in 2008, technology had advanced so much they were able to play back this recording from 1860. So because of our advancements today, the earliest recording is actually from 1860. And then finally, fact number 10 is that the record that has sold the most singles worldwide takes us back to good old Bing Crosby, because a copy of his recording of White Christmas from 1942 is sold 50 million copies worldwide. So Bing Crosby's White Christmas is the single that has sold the most copies in the history of sound recording. So if you've got a fact that I don't give, get an adult to help you, stick it in the comments below. Or if you've got a topic you want to challenge me on, you can stick that in the comments as well. It's the weekend, so you don't have to do anything over the weekend. I'm going to be back on Monday, but you are going to have all of the weekend to research the next topic. And because today is VE Day, I thought it might be quite nice that on Monday, our 10 facts are all going to be about World War II. So tune in on Monday. Get researching over the weekend. Maybe you got some facts in your head already. Maybe you got some books at home you can look through. Maybe you can get an adult to help you look on the internet. But on Monday, I'm going to give you 10 facts about World War II, so get researching. In the meantime, stay home, stay safe, stay creative. Ta-ra a bit, and I'll see you